Welcome to our channel, Gray Matters. We are two neurodivergent ladies who fixate and need to share, and we've created this channel to do just that. Check out our podcast, Fixate Today, Gone Tomorrow, for some deeper dives. We've talked about human trafficking in another video, but could there be other kinds of trafficking going on around the investigation into the death of Mica Miller?
We are not implicating or alleging anything. We research to better understand some types of organized crime that could have been happening in Mica's orbit and call out any potential links or clues.
Let's talk about weapons trafficking. According to U.S. federal code, it is, quote, unlawful to ship, transport, cause to be transported, dispose of any firearms to another person in or otherwise affecting interstate or foreign commerce, if such person knows or has reasonable cause to believe that the use, carrying, or possession of a firearm by the recipient would constitute a felony. It is also, quote, unlawful to receive from another person any firearm in or otherwise affecting interstate commerce, if the recipient knows or has a reasonable cause to believe that such receipt would constitute a felony. Finally, it is, quote, unlawful to attempt or conspire to commit the conduct described above. The penalty for breaking these laws is up to 15 years in prison, a fine, or both. Weapons trafficking is one of the only instances where goods are being moved from the U.S. into another country instead of being trafficked into the U.S.
In my quest to expose how American guns are trafficked throughout Mexico, I never expected to be headed out to sea. But as we move deeper into the waters, these smugglers break down their operation. The Sea of Cortez is over 700 miles long, but less than 100 miles wide. That means these smugglers can make the crossing in less than 3 hours, completely bypassing the military checkpoints set up along Mexico's highways. Right now, they say they're delivering more and more guns to Sonora, directly across the sea. That's the same.
The trafficking route between the U.S. and Mexico is known as the Iron River and is the most used route to get firearms into Mexico in exchange for drugs into the U.S.
I think the flow is this. Drugs make their way north, and firearms and money make their way south. 70% of all firearms come from the north, from the United States.
Anyone can be recruited to become a courier, from very young adults to retired older men and even older women, who are more revered in Mexico by police.
20-year-olds, 18-year-olds that have a clean record get hired to buy some of these guns in some of these places. And then they get gathered by the gun runners. Somebody that has a vehicle, who's a retiree American that crosses the border regularly somehow, maybe goes camping in Baja and stuff like that. It's a perfect candidate to be a mule for firearms. And you load a bunch of cars with people that are not who you would typically expect to stop at the border. So they basically utilize, people camouflage.
It is an unspoken rule that the first time you participate is voluntary. After that first time, the cartels have you.
A police officer, and it only takes you doing something for a criminal organization like any of these cartels that operate on that border. It only takes once for them to know your name, to know how to contact you, to know that you are able to provide a service once. And the first time it's voluntary. The second time they're gonna tell you to do something.
Payments are made to couriers for each step of the way to keep them moving and quiet. Some members of the Border Patrol are often highly corrupt. Often, no or limited searches occur for people coming into Mexico, although heavy searches happen for those going into the U.S. Most arrests come from couriers snitching on one another.
It's not an easy thing. In my experience, most of the arrests that we made were pitazos. A pitazo is a Mexican slang word for somebody told on them. Usually it's a personal thing, or usually it's somebody just eliminating competition. Those vehicle hides.
Where the weapons come from in the U.S. really depends on the gun laws in each state. States with more relaxed gun control laws make illegal movement of firearms easier than states with strict gun laws. 74% of firearms that have been traced were found to have crossed state lines, coming from states without background check laws.
South Carolina law prohibits the possession of firearms and ammunition by anyone convicted of a felony. However, some convictions may be eligible for expungement, sealing, or pardon, which could restore firearm rights. JP had a felony conviction in 1998 for hitting a woman with his truck. As such, he was not able to own firearms. In 2022, he filed for pardon, which was approved by the court, thus reinstating his right. With his rights reinstated, JP allegedly bought around 6 firearms.
I can begin. My client, born May 20th, 1979, seeking a pardon for his assault and battery of high and aggravated nature. We are seeking a pardon for this to restore his civil liberties. As our religion and Lord teaches forgiveness, we're seeking that from the state.
Pardon just because I think it's the right thing for me, and I think it's the right thing to do in general.
How's it going to help you? What are you looking to do?
I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of forgiveness. It just feels weird having a charge on your record like that, especially one of how it took place. It's just
And I think that because it's been 20 years since the completion of his probation, we're looking to restore civil liberties, and especially for a leader of a church.
And I'm not going to ask you about giving back to your community, because your whole life looks like you're headed back, giving back to your community through your ministry, sir.
No, sir. I guess that sums it up. Thank you for your time.
In South Carolina, this is where we'll start. We know that 18-year-olds can buy and own guns. So we're talking about handguns, long guns like rifles and shotguns. You don't need a permit to buy one. However, you do have to be 21 years old to apply for a concealed weapons permit. As for background checks, if someone is buying from a firearm dealer, you need a background check. There's not a waiting period to buy a gun, but we'll mention that a background check could take anywhere from a couple hours to a few days before it goes through. Now, across state lines,
some traffickers use a person called a straw purchaser, who is someone who can pass a background check for someone else who is unable to do so due to age or having a criminal record.
Hey folks, Joe here with Aegis Tactical. Today we're going to talk about what is a straw purchase. I'm going to read it off for you real quick so there is no confusion. Buying a gun for someone who is prohibited by law from possessing one, or for someone who does not want his or her name associated with the transaction, is a straw purchase. I'll get into more detail.
Pawn shops are required to adhere to the same laws as other firearm dealers when it comes to straw purchases. It has been suggested by some that pawn shops may be a little more lax in recognizing potential red flags of a straw purchase. I will note, as a personal observation, when I visited the particular shop that Mica used, they carried a large assortment of various firearms.
For authorities, the use of the weapons being trafficked really doesn't matter to them. The firearms could be meant to be used to harm an innocent person or a violent criminal. The point is the illegal weapons and getting them off the streets. Because of this, civilians are caught in the crossfire. Mexico only has one legal gun store in the country, so moving firearms across the border is often a faster and more cost-effective way to get a weapon.
That's it. I think we're going to that beach over there. Oh, there were some guys there. There are some guys actually waiting at the beach, or at least one guy that I see now. And he's coming to greet the boat. He's all dressed in black with a mask as well. Yeah, they're anchoring right there, so this is it. I'm told the man in black is another buyer from Sonora.
Hola.
When recovering illegally transported weapons, authorities always treat a weapon as if it's loaded. Authorities discharge each weapon they seize into a bullet trap, just to be sure. Weapons are usually held in layers of camouflage, like a bin holding a suitcase, holding a smaller bag, holding the weapons. They're usually wrapped in day-to-day objects like clothing. Quite often, firearms are acquired from traffickers, making purchases of seized items from police departments. This is the best opportunity to get military-grade weapons into the cartel's hands, like AR-15s and AK-47s.
¿Y cuántas armas piensas más o menos que pasan por aquí, así, por semana o por mes o así?
Unas 300, 400 armas al mes.
A month. ¿Y cuál es la más popular?
Los carros de chinos y R-15.
¿Cuál es la más poderosa que han pasado por acá?
Hemos pasado lanzagranadas, calibre 50 también.
50 calibers, RPGs. ¿Y de dónde vienen?
Todo viene de Estados Unidos. Todo viene de Estados Unidos.
None of this sounds like arming a criminal organization. They're arming for war.
They are also purchasing firearms that were used in U.S. mass shootings. Firearms move through small markets that are controlled by criminal groups. Sometimes outlaw motorcycle gangs can facilitate trafficking, but not always. Though men and women work as traffickers, it is easier for women to cross the border.
What do people expect to see on the border as far as a drug smuggler? So they're going to shy away from that. Women get utilized a lot to move things around. Older women, because of the cultural stigma of Mexican police agents as far as trying to physically search a female, much less a female that is older in age. Social media is a very big.
The courier role in trafficking pays about $20,000 a month. The weapons supplier stashes guns into the courier's car, who drives them across the border. Once across, the courier drives to a designated location, hides the car keys under the floor mat, and leaves the entire vehicle with the guns in it. A different courier picks up the car and brings it to a garage that holds multiple other vehicles. This is where traffickers get the weapons and distribute them to the highest bidder. Violence is the cartel's source of power, and the guns are just tools of the business. In Mexico, family and friends of missing loved ones will go to the desert and dig in known sites for bodies being dumped. These missing people are known as the disappeared and were murdered by the cartels. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is vital in participating in the global efforts to end the illegal flow of weapons.
Gracias por dejarnos firmar, venir acá. Ayer tenías miedo que yo fuera de la DEA. ¿Por qué ahora tienes confianza en mí?
Pues no tengo confianza. Por eso tengo la gente. Tengo gente más adelante.
¿Nos están mirando ahorita? ¿Dónde?
Ellos nos están mirando a nosotros. Tienen estricto salir.
Entonces, si hay problemas, si somos de...
No, pues todos si sean DEA, lo que sean, pues no... Digo, no van a salir.
The weapons from the U.S. are used to fuel crime internationally, including war crimes, terrorism, and human rights violations. A new battle being undertaken by authorities is that of tracing the movement of ghost guns. Ghost guns are weapons that have been cobbled together with different parts that may have been also trafficked. 3D printing has made the creation of parts for ghost guns infinitely easier for traffickers, and it's a massive issue with no solid solutions. However, some states have enacted a law that makes, quote, selling guns without a federal license illegal. This has the same punishment as trafficking livestock, but it helps to make the moving of weapons more difficult. Small weapons or parts move across the border in something called Operation Ant.
From the United States. Operación Hormiga, they call it Operation Ant, basically. Individuals carrying these small pistols across the border is a very common thing. So how many times can they cross the border? Well, if they're Americans, there's no limit to how many times they can cross that border. It's a pretty easy process to grabbing an AK-47, taking it apart into its basic components, putting it in a backpack, and just walking across some of the ports of entry. Another one is just basically having...
Each step of the way is a link in the chain. Often couriers duct tape weapons or parts directly to their body.
Some of the ports of entry. Another one is just basically having some of these firearms duct tape and or shrink wrapped onto your person. So let's imagine I have 5 mules. Each of them is capable of carrying around probably 2 guns on their legs, duct taped to their legs, maybe 2 more higher up on their thighs, and maybe 2 on their chest. Just multiply that by the amount of people you have doing that on a daily basis, filling their pockets.
Or have compartments installed in their vehicles. Mailing parts have become more prevalent. Items being sent are often stolen or acquired from military bases in the U.S. as cartels work to become more militarized. They are looking for more specific, complicated equipment. Weapons made in the U.S. specifically for cartels are often more ornately designed, appealing to cartels rather than the casual purchaser.
I'm told the buyer is from an affiliated cartel, fighting to regain territory in Sonora. He's picking up a fresh order, including a pair of customized handguns for rich narcos who don't just want a weapon, they want to make a statement. Sales like this.
It creates the air of narco culture and gives members of cartels a Robin Hood mentality. The increased violence in Mexico resulted in the Mexican president suing some gun manufacturers in the U.S.
Use best practices.
Which is why Mexico filed its other lawsuit against gun manufacturer Smith & Wesson. Under U.S. law, gun makers have typically been shielded from liability when one of their guns is used in a crime. But Mexico is arguing the manufacturer is aiding and abetting gun trafficking to the cartels. In court, Smith & Wesson called that allegation not true. They did not respond to our request for comment.
A lot of Mexicans are highly anti-American due to its weapons, as well as the ATV allowing guns to travel across the border to track their routes. Follow-through doesn't happen, and the people of Mexico just see the U.S. releasing more and more weapons into their country.
I find him waiting for me in a stolen pickup truck with another Sureño he calls Problem. But the most explosive intel he shares is that the buyers I saw last night are in police custody.
Oh my. So they use the guns. Basically, they shot at other people with those guns.
Yep.
And they were arrested?
Yep.
Didn't you guys get concerned that that might lead back to you guys?
It's a ghost gun. They don't know where it came from, who it came from, who built it. No serial numbers, no traces.
And do you know, did anyone get hurt? I mean, if he got in trouble, it's because he probably either injured or killed somebody.
Could be.
Would you sell him a gun again?
If he's out here again. Money talks. Watch.
Flaco tells me the demand for his products are skyrocketing. In fact, he's out here.
Another means of international arms trafficking occurs when one country leaves behind military equipment when vacating another country. We have seen this most recently in Afghanistan. Pakistan and Afghanistan share a large border. India has accused Pakistan of arms trafficking.
India has once again raised the issue of cross-border terrorism at the United Nations Security Council. New Delhi has described itself as a victim of terrorism, sponsored, interestingly, from across the border in Pakistan. Now, India's statement came at a high-level open debate at the UNSC on the links between terrorism and organized crime. Now, the perpetrator of the 1993 Mumbai attack, the D Company, continues to enjoy patronage in our neighboring nation, which is a hub of arms trafficking and narcotics trade, along with other terrorists and terror entities. Now, India has also said that crime syndicates reportedly are using the COVID-19 pandemic to further their illicit empires through trafficking of natural resources, narcotics, firearms and explosives. The New Delhi has also...
From August 2020 to sometime in 2024, Wayne Miller spent time in Pakistan, on and off doing some type of ministry outreach.
Are we accusing anyone surrounding the J.P. Miller case of trafficking firearms? No, we have no evidence of that, of course. But we aren't certain what other crimes JP has found himself entangled in, and we can't take anything off the table. And we are all waiting for any and all forms of justice against JP to begin happening. Thank you for listening. Please comment, like, and subscribe. You can also check out our podcast, Fixate Today, Gone Tomorrow, for more content. Have anything you'd like us to fixate on? Reach out and let us know. Thanks for joining us. Disclaimer: we are not investigators, journalists, detectives, law enforcement, or historians. We are two neurodivergent ladies who just hyperfixate. Please do not take our opinions and ideas as statements of fact. All allegations are just that. We are not accusing anyone of anything, simply offering our interpretation of what we've researched.